Aston has been delayed after Newey's strict demands. Hadjar crashes the Red Bull as the test comes to an end, and Ferrari makes a strong debut. Let's get into the latest F1 news. What happens when Formula One's newest rookie crashes during pre-season testing and nobody sees it coming? Well, that's exactly what went down in Barcelona yesterday. And the footage that emerged on social media has everyone talking about Red Bull's dramatic second day of winter testing. I'm going to break down everything that happened during this chaotic day at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. From Max Verstappen setting the pace in tricky conditions, to Isaac Hadjar's reported crash that brought an early end to Red Bull's running. Plus, we'll dive into what this means for the team's preparation heading into the new season, and why Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari debut is generating serious buzz in the paddock. Let me start with the elephant in the room, Isaac Hadjar, Red Bull's newest signing, who's making the massive jump from junior categories straight into Formula One, reportedly crashed the RB22 during afternoon running at turn 14. Now, here's the thing about preseason testing. It's supposed to be a controlled environment where teams methodically work through their programs. Crashes happen, sure, but when they do occur, it's usually a learning experience rather than a disaster. The images that surfaced on social media showed damage to the rear of the car, though Red Bull hasn't officially confirmed the extent of the damage or what caused the incident. What we do know is that it happened during wet conditions in the afternoon, which immediately raises questions about whether this was driver error, mechanical failure, or simply the unpredictable nature of driving in tricky weather conditions. For Hadjar, this crash comes at a particularly sensitive time. He's not just any rookie. He's stepping directly into one of the most competitive seats on the grid, replacing a proven race winner. Every lap, every sector time, every moment behind the wheel is being scrutinized. The pressure on him to perform immediately is enormous, and while one crash in testing doesn't define a career, it's certainly not the start he was hoping for. But let's rewind to how the day actually began, because the morning session painted a completely different picture. Max Verstappen took over driving duties from Hadjar and immediately showed why he's a three-time world champion. Despite dealing with the new RB22 for the first time this season, Verstappen managed to post the fastest time of the day with a reported 1 minute 19.578. What's fascinating about Verstappen's performance is the context. His fastest lap was actually over 1.4 seconds slower than what Hadjar had managed the previous day. But conditions were completely different. Tuesday morning started with clearer weather before deteriorating significantly in the afternoon. This highlights one of the biggest challenges of pre-season testing. Comparing times across different conditions is nearly impossible and often misleading. Verstappen completed approximately 25 laps during his morning stint, which suggests Red Bull was focusing on systems checks and baseline setup work rather than pushing for ultimate performance. In testing, lap count often matters more than lap time, especially early in the program when teams are still understanding their new machines. The weather transition from morning to afternoon created a perfect storm of circumstances that likely contributed to Hadjar's incident. When rain hits a testing session, teams face a difficult decision. Do you continue running to gather wet weather data, or do you pack up to avoid unnecessary risk? Red Bull chose to continue, which is understandable given their limited testing days, but it ultimately backfired. Speaking of limited testing days, this crash has significant implications for Red Bull's preparation schedule. Each team gets only 3 days of testing, and Red Bull has now used 2 of them. With potential car damage from the crash, they might be working against time to repair the RB22 for their final testing day. This could disrupt their planned program and force them to prioritize certain aspects of development over others. Meanwhile, Ferrari was quietly going about their business with a much more systematic approach. Charles Leclerc handled the morning duties and completed a full race distance, which is exactly the kind of mileage teams need during these limited testing opportunities. His fastest time was just over a second slower than Verstappen's, but more importantly, he completed consistent running without drama. Then came the moment everyone was waiting for, Lewis Hamilton's first official laps as a Ferrari driver. Hamilton took over for the afternoon session and managed to complete approximately 53 laps, nearly matching Leclerc's mileage. For a driver switching teams after spending over a decade with Mercedes, this kind of smooth integration is crucial. The significance of Hamilton's Ferrari debut cannot be overstated. This isn't just any driver change. It's arguably the biggest transfer in Formula One history. Hamilton brings 7 world championships and unparalleled experience to Ferrari, but he also needs to adapt to completely different systems, procedures, and team culture. The fact that he was able to complete significant mileage without apparent issues is encouraging for Ferrari fans. What's particularly interesting is how Ferrari structured their testing day. By having Leclerc handle the morning running and Hamilton take the afternoon, they maximize their data collection while giving both drivers meaningful track time. This methodical approach contrasts sharply with Red Bull's more turbulent day and might give Ferrari an early advantage in their season preparation. The absence of other teams on Tuesday is worth noting. Only Red Bull and Ferrari chose to use one of their precious testing days, while teams like McLaren sat out the first 2 days entirely. McLaren announced they'll begin their program on Wednesday, which raises questions about their level of preparation compared to teams that started earlier. This staggered approach to testing creates an interesting dynamic. Teams that start earlier get more experience with changing weather conditions and can identify potential issues sooner. However, teams that start later can learn from the problems encountered by others and potentially avoid similar mistakes. The unofficial nature of all timing data adds another layer of complexity to analyzing these sessions. Without official live timing, journalists and fans must rely on multiple sources to piece together what's actually happening on track. This creates uncertainty about the true pace differences between teams and drivers. From a broader perspective, this testing session highlights several key themes that will likely define the upcoming season. First, the integration of new drivers into established teams remains a significant challenge. Hadjar's crash and Hamilton's smooth Ferrari debut represent opposite ends of this spectrum. Second, the limited testing time puts enormous pressure on teams to maximize every session. Red Bull's crash not only cost them valuable track time, but also potentially compromised their remaining testing opportunities. In contrast, Ferrari's methodical approach allowed them to extract maximum value from their day. Third, weather conditions continue to play a crucial role in testing outcomes. The transition from dry morning conditions to wet afternoon running created the perfect storm that may have contributed to Hadjar's incident, while simultaneously providing valuable wet weather data for both teams. Looking ahead, Red Bull faces some difficult decisions about how to use their final testing day. They need to balance giving Hadjar more seat time to build confidence with ensuring Verstappen gets adequate preparation for the season opener. The crash adds urgency to this decision-making process. For Ferrari, the smooth completion of their second testing day provides momentum as they continue their preparations. Having both Leclerc and Hamilton comfortable in the car early in the testing program positions them well for the remaining sessions. The broader Formula One community will be watching closely as testing continues. Hadjar's crash serves as a reminder that the jump to Formula One is never guaranteed to be smooth, regardless of talent or preparation. However, it's important to remember that testing crashes are relatively common and rarely indicative of future performance. As we move toward the season opener, these testing sessions become increasingly valuable for understanding each team's true potential. While lap times from testing should always be taken with a grain of salt, the ability to complete consistent running without major incidents often proves more valuable than posting the fastest single lap. The drama from Barcelona's second day perfectly encapsulates why Formula One testing remains compelling despite the limited access and unofficial timing. Every lap matters, every incident has consequences, and every driver is fighting to prove they belong at the highest level of motorsport. What if I told you that one of the greatest Formula One designers in history is about to revolutionize engine technology in a way that could completely change the sport? Adrian Newey, the mastermind behind Red Bull's championship dominance, has just made his most audacious engineering gamble yet at Aston Martin. And it involves a collaboration that nobody saw coming. The Formula One world is buzzing with anticipation as we approach the new season. But behind the scenes at Aston Martin's headquarters in Silverstone, something extraordinary is taking shape. Adrian Newey, widely regarded as the most innovative aerodynamicist in modern motorsport, hasn't just been designing a new car, he's been reimagining the very heart of what makes these machines tick, working hand in hand with Honda to create something that could either be a masterpiece or a spectacular failure. Let me take you inside this fascinating story, because what's happening here represents everything that makes Formula One the pinnacle of motorsport innovation. It's a tale of calculated risks, engineering brilliance, and the kind of bold thinking that separates champions from also-rans. When Newey joined Aston Martin after his legendary tenure at Red Bull, many expected him to focus primarily on aerodynamics. After all, this is the man who revolutionized how air flows over racing cars, creating designs that seem to defy physics. But Newey had bigger ambitions. He wanted to influence every aspect of the car's design, including the power unit itself. This is where the Honda partnership becomes absolutely crucial. Unlike other engine manufacturers who typically design their power units independently and then hand them over to teams, Honda has allowed Newey unprecedented input into their latest creation. This collaborative approach represents a fundamental shift in how Formula One cars are developed. Satoshi Tsunoda, Honda's chief of engine development, recently revealed the extent of these modifications. The Japanese manufacturer has completely redesigned their power unit architecture based on Newey's specifications. We're talking about a two-tier design philosophy that prioritizes compactness and reduced length over conventional approaches. But here's where it gets really interesting. The battery system, while appearing similar on the outside, has been completely rebuilt from the ground up. This isn't just an evolution of existing technology. It's a complete reimagining of how electric energy storage and deployment can be integrated into a Formula One car. Why would Newey push for such radical changes? The answer lies in his fundamental design philosophy. Throughout his career, from his early days at March to his championship-winning years at Red Bull, Newey has always believed that everything on a racing car must work in harmony. You can't optimize aerodynamics in isolation from the power unit, just as you can't design a chassis without considering how it affects cooling or weight distribution. By making the Honda power unit more compact and shorter, Newey gains precious space for aerodynamic optimization. Every millimeter counts in Formula One, and by reducing the power unit's footprint, he can redesign the car's packaging to improve airflow, reduce drag, or enhance cooling efficiency. It's a domino effect where one innovation enables multiple others. But this approach comes with significant risks, and that's exactly what makes this story so compelling. Aston Martin has deliberately delayed their arrival at pre-season testing, choosing to sacrifice track time for development time. While other teams are already running their cars around Barcelona, Aston Martin is still putting the finishing touches on their revolutionary design. This strategy echoes something Newey did at Red Bull back in 2010. That year, the team completely skipped testing in Valencia, instead using every available moment to perfect their car. The gamble paid off spectacularly as they went on to win both championships that season. But for every success story like that, there are cautionary tales of teams that pushed too hard for innovation and ended up with unreliable or fundamentally flawed designs. The philosophy behind this approach reveals something profound about championship-level thinking in Formula One. Newey understands that no amount of testing can make a slow car fast. If the fundamental design isn't competitive, all the data gathering and setup optimization in the world won't extract performance that simply isn't there. Better to arrive with a sophisticated, potentially game-changing package than to have the most reliable version of a mediocre design. This mindset requires incredible confidence and technical expertise. It's one thing to take risks when you're fighting for podium finishes, but Aston Martin has championship ambitions. They've invested heavily in facilities, personnel, and now this Honda partnership. The pressure to deliver is immense. The collaboration between Newey and Honda also represents a fascinating cultural exchange. Honda's engineering culture emphasizes precision, reliability, and continuous improvement. Newey's approach is more intuitive, based on feel and aerodynamic instinct developed over decades of experience. Bringing these two philosophies together could create something truly special, or it could result in compromise solutions that please nobody. What makes this even more intriguing is the timing. Formula One is entering a period of relative regulatory stability, which means that small advantages can be magnified over multiple seasons. If Newey and Honda have genuinely found something that other teams missed, they could establish a performance advantage that lasts for years. The strategic implications extend beyond just Aston Martin and Honda. If this collaboration succeeds, it could fundamentally change how Formula One teams approach partnerships with engine manufacturers. We might see more integrated development programs, where chassis designers and power unit engineers work together from the earliest stages of a project. For Honda, this partnership represents a chance to prove that they can compete with Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull powertrains at the highest level. Their previous Formula One ventures had mixed results, but this time they're working with arguably the best designer in the sport. It's an opportunity to showcase Japanese engineering excellence on the global stage. The human element of this story is equally fascinating. At 67 years old, Newey could have easily coasted on his reputation, designing safe, incremental improvements to existing concepts. Instead, he's chosen to bet his legacy on revolutionary ideas that could either cement his status as the greatest Formula One designer ever or tarnish his reputation if they fail. As we wait to see the fruits of this collaboration on track, one thing is certain. Formula One is about to witness either a masterclass in integrated design thinking or an expensive lesson in the dangers of overambition. Either way, the sport will be better for having witnessed such bold thinking. The next few months will reveal whether Adrian Newey's latest gamble pays off. But regardless of the outcome, this Honda partnership represents everything that makes Formula One captivating. It's the perfect blend of human ingenuity, technological innovation, and calculated risk-taking that has defined motorsport's premier championship for over 7 decades. What if I told you that Ferrari just pulled off something absolutely incredible in Barcelona that has every Formula One expert completely stunned? While everyone was focused on lap times and flashy debuts, the Italian giants quietly achieved something that could change everything for the 2026 season. Picture this. It's a rainy Tuesday morning at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Most teams are packing up their equipment, calling it a day because of the wet conditions. But Ferrari? They're out there grinding, accumulating precious data while their rivals sit in the garage. And what happened next has sent shockwaves through the paddock. Here's what nobody saw coming. Ferrari didn't just survive their Barcelona shakedown. They absolutely dominated it in the most unexpected way possible. We're talking about a performance that has completely rewritten the narrative around their 2026 campaign. And I'm about to break down exactly why this changes everything. Now, before we dive into the juicy details, let me set the stage for you. Ferrari has been carrying this massive psychological burden for almost 2 decades. 20 years without a championship, 20 years of heartbreak, mechanical failures, and strategic blunders. Every single preseason test becomes this intense examination under the microscope, with critics ready to pounce on any sign of weakness. This skepticism isn't just media hype. It's deeply rooted in genuine concern from the Tifosi, the most passionate fan base in motorsport. They've watched their beloved team come tantalizingly close, only to have their dreams crushed by reliability issues time and time again. So when Ferrari announces they're taking a completely different approach to their 2026 power unit, you can imagine the anxiety levels in Maranello. But here's where the story gets absolutely fascinating. While McLaren, the reigning Constructors' champions, chose to delay their track debut, Ferrari made a calculated decision that would prove to be pure genius. They showed up to Barcelona with a revolutionary engine design that nobody saw coming. Let me paint you the picture of what unfolded. The SF26 finally hit the Spanish tarmac. And despite the challenging wet conditions that had other teams running for cover, Ferrari pressed on. Now, you might think that running in the rain limits what you can learn about your car, and you'd be partially right. But Ferrari wasn't just collecting basic data. They were conducting the ultimate stress test for their most critical component. Here's where things get really interesting. Remember, Ferrari made this bold decision to completely abandon the conventional aluminum approach that every other manufacturer uses for their engine cylinders. Instead, they went with steel alloy, a material choice so unconventional that it raised eyebrows throughout the entire paddock. The reasoning behind this radical departure was simple, yet brilliant. Steel alloy can withstand significantly higher temperatures and provide superior reliability compared to aluminum. But here's the catch. It's heavier, more expensive, and much more difficult to work with. Most manufacturers wouldn't even consider it because of these drawbacks. Ferrari's engineers, led by the brilliant minds under Fred Vasseur's direction, believed that the reliability gains would far outweigh these disadvantages. But believing something and proving it on track are two completely different things. Until Barcelona, this was still just theory and computer simulations. Now, here's the moment that changed everything. While Ferrari was methodically completing their program in less than ideal conditions, something extraordinary was happening with their customer teams. Haas, powered by Ferrari engines, was absolutely flying under the radar and achieving something remarkable. Esteban Ocon, driving for Haas, completed more laps than any other driver on the opening day. We're talking 154 laps of pure, uninterrupted running. To put this in perspective, that's more than 3 full race distances without a single mechanical hiccup. But this wasn't just about Haas having a good day. This was vindication of Ferrari's entire engineering philosophy. While other manufacturers were struggling with their power units, Audi managed only 27 laps, and Honda didn't even make it to the track. The Ferrari engine was proving its worth in the most demanding conditions possible. Team principal Ayao Komatsu deserves enormous credit for executing such a flawless test program, especially considering Haas operates with significantly fewer resources than the major manufacturers. But the real story here is what this performance revealed about the Ferrari power unit lurking beneath the hood. The implications of this reliability demonstration extend far beyond just one good day of testing. This is the first real-world validation that Ferrari's unconventional steel alloy approach is actually working. All those months of development, all those sleepless nights in Maranello, all those raised eyebrows from competitors, it's all been justified by this Barcelona performance. What makes this even more impressive is that Cadillac, another Ferrari customer team, also completed their program without any engine-related issues. So we're not talking about a lucky day for one team. We're seeing consistent, bulletproof reliability across multiple chassis and multiple driving styles. The psychological impact of this cannot be overstated. For a team that has been haunted by reliability gremlins for years, to see their power unit performing flawlessly in challenging conditions is like lifting a massive weight off their shoulders. The engineers can finally breathe a sigh of relief knowing that their radical gamble is paying dividends. But let's dig deeper into what this means for the competitive landscape. Engine reliability isn't just about avoiding DNFs. It's about having the confidence to push boundaries throughout the entire season. When you know your power unit can handle extreme stress, you can be more aggressive with your setup, more ambitious with your race strategies, and more willing to take calculated risks. Ferrari's steel alloy cylinders aren't just about preventing failures. They're designed to allow the engine to operate at higher temperatures and stress levels than conventional designs. This opens up possibilities for power delivery and performance modes that simply wouldn't be feasible with traditional aluminum construction. The timing of this breakthrough couldn't be more perfect. With major regulation changes coming into effect for the 2026 season, having a reliable foundation gives Ferrari a massive advantage in development. While other teams might need to dial back performance to ensure reliability, Ferrari can potentially push harder right out of the gate. What's particularly encouraging is that this success isn't just theoretical or based on limited running. We're seeing real-world validation across multiple test sessions and different weather conditions. The SF26's own running has been described as problem-free, adding another layer of confidence to the overall picture. The strategic implications ripple throughout the entire Formula One ecosystem. Customer teams like Haas and Cadillac suddenly find themselves with a more reliable package, which could shake up the competitive order in unexpected ways. A strong, dependable power unit can be the difference between scoring points and going home empty-handed. Looking ahead to the remaining test sessions, Ferrari finds itself in an enviable position. While other manufacturers are still working through fundamental reliability issues, the Scuderia can focus on performance optimization and fine-tuning. This head start could prove invaluable when the season begins in earnest. The confidence boost for the entire Ferrari organization cannot be understated. From the mechanics turning wrenches to the strategists planning race weekends, everyone can approach the upcoming season with renewed optimism. After years of reliability anxiety, they finally have a power unit they can trust completely. For the passionate tifosi who have endured decades of heartbreak, this Barcelona performance represents something truly special. It's not just about lap times or podium finishes. It's about having a foundation solid enough to build championship dreams upon. The reliability demons that have haunted Ferrari for so long might finally be exorcised. As we look toward the 2026 season, Ferrari's Barcelona breakthrough could be remembered as the moment everything changed. Sometimes the biggest victories happen away from the cameras, in the quiet reliability of countless trouble-free kilometers. Today, Ferrari proved that sometimes the most revolutionary approach is also the most dependable one. The championship drought may continue for now, but with this level of reliability backing their ambitions, Ferrari has given their fans genuine reason to believe that better days are finally coming. Picture this. Formula One's most dominant team just bet everything on a partnership that could either make them unstoppable or send them crashing down the grid. Red Bull has joined forces with Ford to create their own engines from scratch, and what happens next could reshape the entire sport forever. The year is 2026, and we're witnessing one of the most audacious gambles in motorsport history. After years of relying on other manufacturers for their power units, Red Bull decided to go completely independent. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. They've teamed up with Ford, a company that hasn't been in Formula One for over 2 decades. This isn't just another sponsorship deal where a logo gets slapped on a car. This is a full-scale technical partnership that's already transforming how Red Bull builds their engines, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Let me take you behind the scenes of what might be the most ambitious project in modern Formula One. Red Bull Powertrains started as nothing more than an empty field in Milton Keynes just 4 years ago. Today, it houses hundreds of engineers working around the clock to create the engine that will power both Red Bull Racing and their sister team Racing Bulls. The man leading this charge is Laurent Mekies, who took over from Christian Horner after their dramatic split. Mekies isn't sugarcoating the challenge ahead. He's openly admitted that expecting a brand new engine manufacturer to compete with giants like Mercedes and Ferrari from day one would be completely unrealistic. But here's where Ford changes everything. This partnership goes far deeper than anyone initially realized. Ford isn't just providing financial backing. They're revolutionizing how Red Bull manufactures their most critical engine components. Think about it this way. In Formula One, time is literally everything. The difference between winning and losing often comes down to who can develop and manufacture parts faster. Ford's advanced manufacturing capabilities are giving Red Bull a competitive edge that money alone couldn't buy. Mekies revealed something fascinating about how this partnership actually works in practice. Ford has unique manufacturing technologies that Red Bull now uses to produce some of their most complex engine parts. Not only can Ford manufacture these components for them, but they can do it faster than traditional suppliers. The technical director Ben Hodgkinson explained how Ford's direct metal laser sintering technology has been a game changer. This process essentially replaces traditional casting methods and allows Red Bull to turn parts around much quicker than using conventional suppliers. In a sport where teams are constantly racing against development deadlines, this advantage could be massive. But what makes this partnership truly special is that it benefits both sides equally. While Red Bull gets access to Ford's manufacturing expertise, Ford gains something equally valuable: cutting-edge Formula One technology that directly applies to their road car development. Ford's CEO Jim Farley explained how Formula One has become a completely digital sport, and that's exactly where Ford wants to go as a company. The aerodynamics expertise, predictive failure analysis, software control systems, and high-discharge battery technology that Red Bull masters are all crucial capabilities Ford needs for their future vehicles. There's another angle to this partnership that's often overlooked. Ford sees their involvement in Formula One as essential for their credibility, especially in the off-road vehicle market. Racing success translates directly to consumer confidence. When customers see Ford competing at the highest level of motorsport, it validates the capability of their road cars. This credibility factor has helped Ford become twice as successful as Jeep in the American market. Their involvement in various forms of racing, from Baja to Formula One, reinforces their brand as having genuine capability, rather than just marketing claims. The timeline for this partnership is crucial to understand. Ford wasn't part of the original plan when Red Bull powertrains started in 2022. Hodgkinson revealed that Ford only joined about a year into the project, after they could see what Red Bull had accomplished in just 12 months. This timing was actually perfect for both parties. Red Bull had proven they were serious about their engine program, but still needed specific expertise to fill gaps in their organization. Ford provided not just manufacturing capabilities, but also experienced personnel who could integrate directly into Red Bull's operations. The homologation deadline of March 1st represents a crucial milestone. This is when the FIA officially approves the engine design, and there's no going back after that date. Everything Red Bull and Ford have worked on over the past few years comes down to this moment. However, Mekies is managing expectations carefully. He's been very clear that the first few months of competition will be challenging. Starting an engine manufacturing program from scratch and expecting immediate success against manufacturers with decades of experience would be naive. The comparison to Mercedes' high-performance powertrains facility is telling. That operation evolved from the established Ilmor company, giving them a significant head start when hybrid engines were introduced in 2014. Red Bull is starting from zero, building everything from the ground up. But this challenge also represents an opportunity. Red Bull isn't constrained by legacy systems or established ways of doing things. They can implement the latest technologies and manufacturing processes from day one, potentially giving them advantages that older facilities might struggle to adopt. The broader implications of this partnership extend beyond just Red Bull's success. If they can prove that a new manufacturer can compete at the highest level, it could encourage other companies to enter Formula One. This would increase competition and potentially reduce costs across the sport. The Ford name returning to Formula One after 22 years carries significant symbolic weight. Their last involvement ended when they sold the Jaguar team to Red Bull back in 2005. Now they're partnering with that same organization, creating a fascinating full-circle moment in the sport's history. Looking ahead, the success or failure of this partnership will likely influence how other manufacturers approach Formula One. The automotive industry is undergoing massive transformation with electrification and autonomous driving technologies. Formula One's hybrid power units and advanced control systems provide a perfect testing ground for these future technologies. The 2026 season will be the ultimate test of whether Red Bull and Ford's ambitious gamble pays off. They're not just competing against other teams, they're proving whether a completely new approach to engine development can succeed in Formula One's ultra-competitive environment. What makes this story so compelling is that nobody really knows how it will end. Red Bull could emerge as the dominant force in the new regulation era, or they could struggle with reliability issues that take years to resolve. Either outcome would reshape Formula One's competitive landscape. The partnership between Red Bull and Ford represents more than just another technical collaboration. It's a bold statement about innovation, ambition, and the willingness to take massive risks for potentially massive rewards. Whether they succeed or fail, they're writing one of the most fascinating chapters in modern motorsport history. The Formula One world is buzzing with anticipation right now. And if you think you know what to expect from the 2026 season, you might want to think again. Ferrari's team boss just dropped some surprising insights that could completely change how we view championship predictions. And honestly, what he's saying challenges everything we thought we knew about Formula One dominance. Picture this. For 3 out of the last 4 seasons, whoever crossed the finish line first in Melbourne went on to become world champion. That's a pretty convincing pattern, right? You'd think that opening race success basically sets the tone for the entire year. But Ferrari's Fred Vasseur is telling us to throw that assumption right out the window, and his reasoning is absolutely fascinating. We're standing at the edge of what might be Formula One's most dramatic transformation in decades. The sport is completely reinventing itself for 2026, and we're not talking about minor tweaks here. These are fundamental changes that will shake up everything from car design to driving techniques, and even the most experienced drivers are going to feel like rookies all over again. Let me paint you a picture of just how revolutionary these changes are. The cars themselves are getting a complete makeover. They're becoming 20 centimeters shorter and 30 kilograms lighter than what we saw last season. But here's where it gets really interesting. We're saying goodbye to those ground effect cars that dominated recent years and welcoming in an era of active aerodynamics. Active aerodynamics means movable front and rear wings that drivers can adjust during the race. Imagine the strategic complexity this adds. Drivers won't just be focused on hitting the perfect racing line or managing tire wear anymore. They'll need to constantly think about wing positioning, when to deploy these aerodynamic advantages, and how to maximize their effectiveness. It's like adding an entirely new dimension to racing. The engine revolution is equally dramatic. These new power units will run exclusively on fully sustainable fuel, which is a massive step forward for environmental responsibility in motorsport. But the real game changer is the power distribution. We're looking at a perfect 50-50 split between electrical and combustion power. This balanced approach means drivers will need to master completely new energy management strategies. Think about what this means for the drivers themselves. Everything they've learned about racecraft, everything they've mastered about car control, suddenly needs to be recalibrated. They'll need to understand when to use overtake mode, how to manage boost systems, and how to integrate all these new technologies seamlessly while still focusing on the fundamental art of racing. Vasseur makes a crucial point about this transformation. The teams can provide the tools, but ultimately it comes down to how well drivers can adapt and maximize these new capabilities. This puts driver skill and adaptability at the center of championship success more than ever before. It's not just about having the fastest car anymore. It's about having the driver who can best integrate all these complex systems. The Ferrari team principal describes this as a complete reset for everyone involved. Drivers will need to approach weekends differently, develop their understanding of the cars differently, and even change their fundamental driving techniques. This level of change creates uncertainty that extends far beyond just the opening race. Here's where Vasseur's championship prediction becomes really intriguing. He's expecting development rates this season that will make previous years look conservative by comparison. Teams are essentially starting from scratch with these new regulations, which means the car that wins in Melbourne might look completely different from the car that wins the championship in November. Several teams, including Ferrari, missed the opening day of testing in Barcelona, which would normally be concerning. But in this new regulatory environment, it might not matter as much as we'd expect. Everyone is learning, everyone is discovering new challenges, and everyone is adapting at their own pace. The traditional advantage of early season success might be completely neutralized by the rapid development cycles we're about to witness. A team could arrive in Australia with what seems like a basic version of their car, and then unleash massive upgrades throughout the season. Conversely, a team that dominates early might find themselves quickly overtaken as others solve the new technical puzzles. This creates an environment where championship predictions become almost impossible. The usual metrics we use to evaluate team performance might not apply when everyone is essentially learning a new sport together. Driver adaptability could become more valuable than pure speed, and engineering creativity might trump traditional aerodynamic advantages. Vasseur emphasizes that this uncertainty extends well beyond Melbourne. Even winning the opening race won't guarantee championship success because the development race will be so intense throughout the entire season. Teams that can innovate quickly, adapt efficiently, and integrate new technologies seamlessly will have the advantage. The human element becomes critically important in this scenario. Drivers who can quickly understand and exploit new systems will have a significant edge. Those who can provide clear feedback to help their teams develop these complex new cars will become invaluable assets. The relationship between driver and engineering team takes on new significance when everyone is navigating uncharted territory. This regulatory reset also creates opportunities for teams that might have been struggling under the previous rules. A midfield team that cracks the code on active aerodynamics or energy management could suddenly find themselves competing for victories. Conversely, teams that dominated under the old regulations might struggle to adapt to the new paradigm. The psychological aspect of this transformation shouldn't be underestimated either. Drivers and teams will need to maintain confidence and focus while constantly learning and adapting. Those who can embrace the uncertainty and view it as an opportunity rather than a challenge will likely perform better throughout this transition period. Looking ahead to Melbourne, the traditional importance of that opening victory might be replaced by something entirely different: the ability to gather data, understand the new cars, and begin the development process effectively. The real championship battle might not even begin until teams have had several races to understand what they're working with. This makes the 2026 season potentially one of the most unpredictable in Formula One history. Championship contenders might emerge from unexpected places early. Leaders might fade as others adapt more quickly, and the traditional markers of success might be completely irrelevant. Vasseur's prediction challenges us to think differently about how championships are won and lost. In this new era of Formula One, consistency and development might matter more than early season dominance. Adaptability might trump raw speed, and the team that learns fastest might ultimately lift the trophy, regardless of what happens in Melbourne.